I'm not going to call it a benefit of the pandemic. I will say a side effect of the pandemic that has been good for many is that a lot of the venues for long-standing shows closed and a lot of people moved. So as the scene is rebuilding itself, there are a lot more rooms that are run by women. There are a lot more rooms that are dedicated to booking more diverse acts. So the scene is rebuilding itself in a way that it wasn't before, and more people are getting to participate in the scene as a result. So I'm grateful for that side effect. Not grateful for the pandemic.
Yes,
Can't be clear
yes,
enough about that.
yes.
But what it enabled has been really, really interesting to watch.
Mhm. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is season 5 of Shooting the Breeze. This week, my guest is comedian Amma Marfo. Amma is based in Boston, and she has a Canadian connection. We'll talk about that a bit later, and a hockey connection. We'll also get into that. So please welcome, please welcome Amma.
Hi, everybody. So excited
Hi.
to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I forgot to mention that you have a 30-minute comedy special out on YouTube, and the audio version has come out as well
Mm-hmm.
on Spotify, iTunes, and wherever you listen to things,
Yes,
right?
wherever your music or comedy specials are, there too I will be.
Awesome. That's amazing. Congratulations on
Thank you. Thank you.
that. And before we get started, where can people find you in the socials?
So I am on Instagram and YouTube at Amma Marfo. So all one word, AMMAMARFO. I gave up on Twitter. I jumped off the sinking ship. So I don't know what's going on over there. I have no idea. But YouTube and Instagram are the best places to find me.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll include that information in the show notes. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
So we've known each other for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
We met I don't remember what show we met on, but we met virtually.
Yes.
Um and I think there was a comedy festival that we were both in, but we never crossed paths.
That
The
might be true. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure
think
how
it
that
was,
happened.
yeah, because I think that was Portland, Maine.
Oh, I got COVID. I didn't get to go.
Oh, okay. That's probably
Yeah, so we were
that's
supposed to
what.
meet, but then
Yes.
the
Then you got
pandemic
sick.
finally caught up with me. I had gone ages without getting it, and then right around the time something important was supposed to happen, I had to stay home.
Oh man. Of course. That's the way it happens. What's that, like
Mm-hmm.
Newton's law or something?
I don't remember, but yeah,
Yeah. Is there
whoever's law it
something,
is.
somebody's law? Oh my goodness. So yeah. So we met. We haven't met in person yet.
I have no
Um.
idea how tall Simone is. I'll find out this summer. That
Yes,
to me
because
is
we're.
the big part of like getting off of Zoom is I didn't know how
Yes,
tall you were.
exactly. I am tall though.
See, I'm not, so you'll
You're
find
not
out.
tall. I'm
No.
5'9". I tell people I'm 5'10", but really I'm 5'9".
See, and
So
I
I'm
tell
tall.
people I'm 5'2", I'm 5'1.5", so I'm little.
Okay, you're tiny. You're
Tall Zoom
tiny.
energy though.
Yes, I thought you were. I would have, just based on everything, I would have said like at least 5'7".
That happens a lot. I have tall Zoom energy.
Oh yeah, and we're scheduled to meet this June
Mm-hmm.
in New York City
Yes.
at the Black Women's Laugh Fest,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm so excited. It'll be my first
It's
time attending.
it's so fun. You're gonna love
Yeah.
it. It's so fun.
No, yeah, I can't wait. I was crushed when I didn't get in last year, and I was like over the moon when I got in this year. So I'm very, very, I'm like,
Yes.
yay. So I'm very, very excited for that this year. So it's like, woohoo. Yeah, that's gonna be awesome.
It
That's gonna
really
be
is.
awesome.
It's I've gotten to go a couple times and it's like going to camp. Like you make friends and then like getting to go back multiple times. It's like I get to see my friends from camp.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Because I have no idea what to expect. Like, I don't even know how many shows we're going to be doing or where anything is, or like, I have no idea. No
It's gonna be
idea.
an adventure.
It'll be an adventure for sure. For sure. Yeah, I'm bringing one of my friends with me,
Oh great.
and that'll be fun. So, yay.
Can't
So,
wait.
so with comedy, like, How long have you been doing comedy and how did you get started?
So I actually started with sketch around 2014. I was at a point in my job, I worked in higher education for a long time, and I was at a point in my job where I was just both insanely busy and incredibly bored, which is like
Mhm.
a gross feeling. And I needed something that had nothing to do with my job. I needed to meet people who had no idea what I did. I was like, let's just find something else to do. And I'd always really liked comedy. Stand up was a little bit intimidating at that point, but I really like writing. I've always been a writer. So I took sketch, I did that for several months. And then the challenge with sketch versus something like stand up or like improv is that sustaining the momentum to do it is a little bit tougher because it requires other people, it requires
Mm.
places to practice, it requires in some cases like filming equipment and all this infrastructure, so to speak, that I didn't really have access to. So I kind of stopped doing it. Like I would write things here and there. Really just liked writing jokes in general, but wasn't super interested in the performing piece of it. And then in early 2016, I was actually hosting a podcast with a group of friends, and there were four of us. The other three basically told me on our New Year's resolution episode, "You're going to do stand up this year." So it was out in the open. Our listeners heard it. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I better make this happen. So I took a class that summer with a good friend of mine, and I really thought that like I would do the showcase show and that would be it. And I really liked it. Like I liked the community of people I got to write with. I liked being able to have that in-person testing of like writing something and finding out in real time if it's funny. And at that point, I really just said, like, I'll keep doing it for as long as it's fun. And for the most part, that has remained true. So I've been doing it ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What was your first show? What was that like?
So it was our showcase at the studio where we took classes. I have, and I still do the show sometimes. It's evolved obviously in the 7 years since I wrote it, but it's essentially about like the Netflix algorithm and what it thinks of you and how I had to like train it to like what I like or to know who I am. And I still really like that joke. Um, but yeah, it was just such a fun experience. Our instructor told us he's like, it's one of the warmest rooms you'll ever have because you get to invite your friends and your
Yes.
family. And it was so nice to just like have people that supported me in other venues kind of be like, oh wow, she can do this too. So it was really, really fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Because my start was similar. I took a course
Mhm.
and yeah, the warmest room ever because it was everybody's friends and family. And I think I invited, I was fairly new to Ottawa still. I hadn't been here a year.
Mm,
Like I moved here in February. I took the course in August and our show was in September.
okay.
So I had like my sister and some other close friends came from Montreal
Mhm.
to see it, and then the few people that I knew here, I invited. Like I was inviting everybody. Like
And you
that's
kind of do. You're just like, it's this thing that you're
yeah,
excited to show off, but also like a little
yeah,
bit terrified to show off. But it's like, if I have people I know to come, like at least that'll help.
yeah. At least I was guaranteed like that group of laughs, if nothing
Yes.
else. You
Yeah,
know.
it's like I'll have like my five people that are laughing,
Hmm.
if
If
nothing
other
else. And
people
it
laugh, bonus. But at least I have those five to laugh.
exactly.
Because I know when
Exactly.
I was like thinking about it, like I thought about it on and off for like 37 years before I actually did it. And I always like when I was in Toronto, I was like, I don't want anybody I know here. I'll go off somewhere like in the woods somewhere and do it. No one will recognize me. And it was a far cry when I actually did it to
It
have,
is like I kind of go back and forth about this all the time. And because I have coworkers now, I was working independently at the time. I've since like joined a full-time company again. And they're like, do you care if people you work with are there? And for the most part, I really don't. I don't really have jokes about work. Like
same.
it's that's not where the fun stuff happens. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, what we do isn't that interesting. Like, especially now that we're remote, there's not even like anecdotes of things that happen in the office. So it's like, no, that's not the funny part for me. So yeah, like you can find out about my other stuff, but like I'm not gonna joke about work most of the time.
Right. Right. Same with me. How do you, I discovered in, I think it was in December. I
Hmm.
did a show at home in Montreal, and my sister, God bless her, brought like 30 people.
Oh
It was
wow.
amazing. It was amazing. But they all sat at the front.
Ah,
And
that's so funny.
I discovered that night that I like having friends and family there. I don't want to see them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because
that's so
it took
funny that
me,
they sat
yeah,
at the front because like no one ever wants to sit at the front. Like, why
yeah.
would they do that?
It was at a pub, it was at a bar, it was a bar show.
Uh-huh.
And just the way they just sat at the front. They're all theater people, so I think they like being close to the stage too.
Aha. See,
So
most
yeah,
people are terrified of being at the front, so I don't
exactly. Usually
tend to
nobody
have
wants
to
to be at
worry
the,
about it.
but yeah,
And
everybody she brought was at the front. And I found myself looking beyond them
yeah,
because I was like, I can't make eye contact with you when I say the things I say. Like
just
I
yeah, just
just
like into that murky middle where you can't see faces. It's like, I'll talk to
exactly.
y'all.
Yeah. And it I think it was the fact that they were so like physically close.
Hmm.
Because you know, like in a bar show, you can usually see everybody. So I
Hmm.
think if they were sitting farther back and like strangers were in front, it would have been okay. But when they're right there, I was
Yeah.
like,
And it's
don't
like
like
where your
this.
eye line naturally goes. Like you would essentially just be looking down the whole time, which just
Mm,
feels weird.
exactly. So yeah, so I liked having them there. I like the
Hmm.
support, but not so close to the
Yeah, it's like, can you
stage.
move
Yeah, can
back?
you like vamoose, like just sort of dial it back a little
Yeah,
bit?
just leave the splash zone like everybody else always does. Like I need the extra row to like get my head
Exactly,
right.
exactly. And then like another time it was fewer people. I think it was my sister and my brother-in-law again. And I think they were maybe 6 or 7 people. And this was an even smaller bar.
Hmm.
And they were literally right there.
Oh gosh.
Because there wasn't
Do
like
they
a
have good
stage.
laughs at least?
Oh yeah, yes.
Okay,
They
because
had,
my
yeah.
sister is a very what I what I call very appreciative laughter, which is to say, like no matter where she is in the room, I know where she is,
Oh.
and I could hear her. Like even when I was going back and doing the recording for my album, I texted her. I was like, I can hear you. I can hear you as I'm editing, and I love having friends like that because it's like I know you're
Yeah,
there.
I
And then
know where
like
you
another of
are.
my friends who's less of a well, she's an audible laugher, but she's also just like a noisemaker. So she'll be like, oh, or and I was like, I heard
Oh.
you too. So it's nice to know where they are.
Yes,
But again, if that was
yes.
happening at the front, I'd be like, can you not?
So distracting.
Yeah.
So tell me about the album, like the whole process, like
Mhm.
how did that how was that? Like
I really liked it. I got to a place where over the course of I would say the pandemic, perhaps a little bit before, I just really liked the arc of the material that I had written. Like there was about half an hour that just fit together really nicely. It had a nice story arc, it had like a beginning, middle, and end. It had a lot of jokes that I was really proud of. And I wanted to capture that because it just fit together thematically. And I was like, I want to have a record of this, especially because it came together at like such a weird time. And
mm,
like early on in the pandemic, it was so difficult. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be funny again. Like, this is
yeah.
awful. And
Yeah.
like through the process of like getting back into a workshop, like early in 2021, and then like starting to put together shows with like people that I had met through those workshops and building other things, like I got a lot of material that kind of like worked me out of that. And I was like, let's commemorate this. So I had a friend that's an audio engineer that I met through a program I did last year, a friend whose husband is a filmmaker. So I kind of had all of those pieces together and I was like, I want to do this thing. Can you help me? And I also happened to see in tandem, there were a lot of other comedians like Sam Morril, Mark Norman, I want to say did one, Joe List did one. A lot of people were producing their own.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you never know if you're going to have the chance to like wait for somebody to pick you. So I was like, I want to pick it. I want to put it out there. And like, I'm not expecting it to be like this massive thing. I just like this material and wanted to put together a way for other people to be able to enjoy it as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Like
Yeah,
where did you record it? Was there a special place that did you record it at a venue that had sentimental value?
I did.
Yeah.
So the comedy collective that I work with, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later, I'm sure, is called Fodball Productions. So we do shows that essentially lift up people who are usually the first, only, or different on their lineup. So women, people of color, people across the queer spectrum. And we started doing shows at this bookstore in Somerville, Massachusetts. It's not too far from Boston. Uh, it just basically has, like, if you did the book fairs as a kid, it has like adult bookstore vibes, and it's just a really warm space. It's like fairly small, so I didn't have to worry too much about selling it out. And we just become so comfortable performing there that I was like, I want that to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I love books. I've been a reader my whole life. So it
Right.
just felt really nice that, like, if I'm going to do it, that's the place that it's going to be. So I am so excited that I got to, like, bring people who had never been to that space before there, fellow comedians who kind of did that show along with me and also got their sets recorded. They got to perform there and have that commemorated. But yeah, it was kind of the perfect place to have it
Ah,
happen.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, this the material that you recorded, do you still do it, or is it archived forever now that it's
You know, I had a struggle with that because I was kind of worried that, like, I would burn it, so to speak, and then not be able to do it afterwards. And I had some conversations with comedians who have done a little bit more recorded work or TV work or online work and stuff. And they said you don't necessarily have to, because sometimes people will know a joke and want to see you do it live.
Mhm.
So I kind of pick and choose where sometimes if I'm not fully confident in some of the newer stuff, I'll kind of mix it in. Or sometimes, like, if I'm doing a longer set, most of it's kind of going to have to be that material because I know it better. But yeah, I think I've kind of let go of the idea that once it's recorded, it's dead. I like to keep it
Okay.
alive. Sometimes I still have new tags, and I'm like, no, I think
Right.
that could work. I want to add it. So a comedy special or an album is kind of like a moment in time, but
Mhm.
those jokes can continue to evolve.
Yes, yes, because that's what I was going to say. Because last April, a bunch of women in Ottawa, we got the chance to record like a compilation album,
Hmm.
and it came out in December. And it was interesting to listen to my set because they're joke like there are a couple of jokes that I still do today, but they've evolved. They're different now. It's the same joke, but either, a new tag's been added, or it's morphed into something different, sort of thing. And like you said, I like what you said about it being like a moment in time.
Hmm.
On that particular day, this is how I said it.
Exactly, exactly. And there was even, like, there's a joke that I had a new, like, piece that I just kind of, like, wanted to try, and many would argue that the album recording day was not the day to do it, but I wanted to do it, so I did it. And it's funny because, like, the laughs hit at a spot different than where I thought I would. So, like, even as it was supposed to be this experience where this was stuff that I knew pat, it still surprised me. Because I was like, I knew that part was fun. Like, of course, I knew it was funny or I wouldn't
Yeah.
have done it.
Yeah,
But I didn't realize that,
exactly.
like, the biggest laugh was going to be at the part where it hit.
Oh, okay.
So it was a nice
Okay.
surprise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, like I remember with um my first performance. There was a joke I did, and I got a laugh where I didn't expect it.
Hmm.
And I in my video, you actually see me go like
You're like,
it's
oh.
actually like shook. Like, it's like for a nanosecond I'm like this, but I kept going. Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's because it happens. It's like it still happens where maybe it's the way maybe it's how you said it, maybe the expression on your face when you
Hmm.
say something, that it just triggers laughter, and it triggers laughter in a place that you're not accustomed to hearing it
Hmm.
for a particular bit.
Yeah, like, I
Mhm.
have a joke where, like, part of the punch depends upon how the audience reacts to it, and I'm usually accustomed to, like, one of two reactions, but, like, in the recording, I didn't know which one I was gonna get, and I was like, "I really hope it's this. Please do it this way and not the other way," and I got what I wanted. But yeah, like, sometimes you just really can't predict how it's gonna go, especially when you're asking, like, audience questions, because, like, laughter is the appropriate answer, but then some people will try to, like, answer the question, and I'm like, "Oh, I wasn't actually asking, but thank
Yeah,
you."
this isn't a conversation.
Yeah, it's like, we're not.
We're
I'm
not.
work. I'm at work. Like, not now. So like, yep, yep.
Hush, like.
Hmm. But look, sometimes you get good advice that way. Like I had a joke about anxiety medication. Like someone in the audience who was like up to have a conversation was about it was like, me too. And I was like, cool. And she's like, how much? And I said like the amount. She's like, you should ask if they can help you to this amount. And I was like, I'm gonna do that. And I did. And I got what I wanted. So most helpful heckler I've ever had. So if you're not, to those listening who may come see me at a show at some point, if the heckling is not about an anxiety medication dosage, you can keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Not interested.
I think one of the funniest heckling, and it wasn't even a heckle.
Mhm.
I don't know how to describe it, but that I witnessed. And this was at a comedy club in Kingston,
Mhm.
Ontario, and I had gone to see friends perform. It's things that just start to open up. It was July of 2020,
Mhm.
and so I can't remember if it was the headliner or the host who was on stage. And at that point, we're behind plexiglass. We're all spaced out in the room, and I was sitting with my friend Peter, and the whoever was on stage, the comic on stage, was just the rhetorical question of like, who got to travel before the pandemic, before like quarantine,
Mhm.
and a couple people answered, and he said he went to Mexico or something like that, and then just moved on. We're all laughing and stuff, and then there was
Mhm.
like a pause, and this voice like 5 minutes later, where in Mexico did you go? Where in Mexico? And the comic, like he it was like a record scratch, and
It's like
he's
I've
like,
said
buddy,
so
that
much
was
since
like.
then. Like, were you just like this person must have just been like, I'm sorry, I can't move forward until I know where he went.
I was Me and my friend were dying because because I remember going, what? And my friend and I looked at each other, and it was literally like a record scratch. The comic was like, yeah, we've moved on. Like, I've said so many other things.
Like, it's an answerable question, but like, how much do you want to indulge that person?
Oh my god.
It's like, oh, Mexico City. It's like, what did you do? And it's like, we're not using this right now.
And the fact that it was like, do you know that there's a meme with all the browsers? Like, who are we? And then browsers. Like
Yep.
5 minutes later,
Yep.
that's exactly like the guy just came online and was like, "Where'd you go?"
That's hilarious and ridiculous.
Every time I think of it, I die laughing because it was so funny.
Oh man.
And like asked it with such such sincerity, and like he was so earnest. Like, where'd you go in Mexico?
Like, wasn't being a jerk, just wanted to make sure that he
Yeah,
had a good time.
exactly. He wasn't trying to disrupt. He genuinely wanted to know.
That's precious.
It was precious. Exactly. It was so
Just
funny.
how cute. How cute.
Exactly. It's like adorable. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. So when because I'm sure that I think, well, Boston probably has a bigger comedy market than Ottawa, where I am. Hey,
Mhm.
our comedy scene is pretty vibrant. But I am like one of three three active Black female comics
Mhm.
in like a 200-kilometer radius sort of
Yeah.
thing. I'm usually the only woman on like a pro show lineup, or like a not open mic sort of thing. I'm either the only woman, usually the only person slash woman of color
Yeah.
for kilometers or for
Mhm.
miles, like that. Is that your experience as well, or are there more uh women comics of color?
Well, it's interesting because Boston, I think when you think about Boston comedy, there's a certain type of comedian that people think of. So like Dennis Leary is
Yeah,
from
Bill
Boston.
Burr. Yeah.
Bill Burr, yeah, Louis C.K. So like when you think about the big people that come out of Boston, like that is the perception that that's who the scene is producing. And I do think that over time it's diversified pretty significantly. So like Sam J, who did SNL and
I
Pause with
love
Sam J, is
her.
from Boston.
Love her.
She's fantastic.
Fantastic. I love
Yeah.
her.
So Sam J, other people have like come through Boston and then since gone on, like Langston Kerman, who now like does a good bit of TV writing, came through Boston for a little bit. Nick Chambers, Tawanda Gona, like they're wonderful comedians in color, and these are all Black folks that I've mentioned. But to your point, typically speaking on shows, like we don't get to work together very often. Like the first time I did the Black Women in Comedy Festival was in 2019. And when I went, I met multiple Black women who I had never met in Boston before because we're never on shows together. It was either Awit was on a show or Reese was on a show or
Yeah,
I was
because
on a show.
otherwise it's a special show.
Exactly. So we never met. And that was really frustrating to me because like we didn't know each other were out there. Like we've since worked together a number of times, and now that we have our collective where we're doing more shows like this, it's essentially full shows of people who don't otherwise know each other. And some of that is compounded by the fact that like the open mic scene here is a lot of those just like bro dudes who sometimes write, sometimes don't, but like kind of go up and take all of the air out of the room. So I've seen women that were incredible on shows and been like, why have I never seen you before? And they're like, oh, we don't go to mics, we don't like it. So building a space where it can look a little bit different and feel a little bit different has become really important to me and to a number of the other women that are here. I'll also say I'm not going to call it a benefit of the pandemic. I will say a side effect of the pandemic that has been good for many is that a lot of the venues for long-standing shows closed and a lot of people moved. So as the scene is rebuilding itself, there are a lot more rooms that are run by women. There are a lot more rooms that are dedicated to booking more diverse acts. So the scene is rebuilding itself in a way that it wasn't before, and more people are getting to participate in the scene as a result. So I'm grateful for that side effect, not grateful for the pandemic. Can't be clear enough about that. But what it enabled has been really, really interesting to watch.
Yeah, we're experiencing that here as well, that like the rebuilding of and like the resetting of the scene. Yeah, more women are producing and running shows. More women have like started doing stand up. Still, it's still a male dominated field, but more and more women are coming out. And then we also feel more, it's not as intimidating. You know, it's not as intimidating to be like the only woman on the lineup or the only person of color in in the lineup. Like it's changing. Some don't like it.
Sure.
Some don't like it.
Yeah, not everybody is taking this change in stride. I'll say that to be sure. And I'll say too, like the number of comedians that I work with now who either got started or really picked up momentum in like the Zoom comedy or online comedy era, like that's not lost on me in the sense that we met on shows where a lot of different types of people were represented. I did like workshops with and this is a rare instance of like I was in like a class / workshop with more women than men. A lot of like workshop groups popped up where we could like do open mics and work together with each other. And like the ability to not necessarily control that experience, but moderate it in a way that you wouldn't get in a real life environment. Like that's not insignificant. Like we had to put it into a situation where everybody was working from where they were most comfortable and where you could literally mute or kick a man out for disrespecting you. And that's when women start to thrive. That's really interesting to me.
Yes. No, I agree. You know, that we had, because I agree with all of that. And then I also experienced that in a way that like online, that I didn't experience in person, because I had when the pandemic hit, or when like when lockdown happened, like in
Yeah.
March of 2020, I'd only been doing it like 6 months. So I had very little experience on stage, like live crowds and stuff. The experience I had was great, but
Yeah.
I think by the time the pandemic hit, I might have done maybe 25 sets, maybe.
Wow.
So very, very green, very, very green.
Hmm.
And then I pivoted to online, and that helped me grow because
Yes.
I think I was new enough to make the pivot. I don't know if I would pivot as easily now. Like if it had happened
Sure.
now, I'm not sure if it would. I think I would still do it, but I don't think it would be as easy a transition
Hmm.
now versus 3 years ago. But I was just like, okay,
Yeah, it's like,
you
this is where
know,
we are now.
yeah,
Cool.
this is
That's where
where
I'm
we are.
going.
Okay, let's figure this out. And I think the opportunity to perform, even though I was in my apartment, but like I
Hmm.
performed on shows in the UK, hundreds of shows in the States,
Hmm.
shows in different parts of Canada, all over the place, literally all over the place. And those are opportunities that I know I wouldn't have gotten. There's no way
Hmm.
I would have been performing in New York City or LA. you,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? With comics from those areas. There's that wouldn't have happened in
Yeah, like the
real
people that
life.
I met, it's been wonderful to kind of just like
Oh
see
yes.
people that you wouldn't otherwise meet, get on shows with comedians that you might not otherwise have been on. It's
Yeah.
it really, it didn't like level set per se, but it kind of, with everybody in the same boat, we had opportunities to like move differently. And I think that's
Yes.
been really interesting.
Yes, yes, for sure. Because I know I got opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten in person,
Hmm.
and then by the time things opened up, I'd gotten so much like unique experience
Hmm.
that I like literally hit the ground running. It was just like, okay, I'm just going to transfer this, and I just pivoted back, and for a while I was
Yeah.
doing both because we were open, closed.
Hmm.
But I think that that whole experience um set me, I don't know, I think it set me years ahead of, had I just had nothing happened and just doing um like the regular trajectory of
Hmm.
in person. It changed everything. It changed everything,
Yeah, and I
you
know it's
know.
not for everybody because a lot of people don't like it, and I still run an online show because I do
Yeah.
really like it, and I do think that the opportunity to work that way is valuable, but I think there are some people who didn't like it or didn't treat it that way, that it might have felt like it quote unquote set them back. But I know so many people for whom it really pushed them forward
Yeah.
because they were
Yeah.
able to network in a way that wasn't easy to do in person, or they were able to hone
Right.
their material with other like-minded people in ways that
Hmm.
was really difficult to execute otherwise.
Yes,
So
for
I think
sure.
it, again, not something I would be grateful for en masse, but the specific
Yes.
opportunity it provided
Yes.
was so, so valuable.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I know one of the biggest things I learned was like how to deal with silence.
Yeah.
Because yeah, on when you're doing a Zoom show, like you don't know if anyone's paying attention because
Hmm.
mics are off, cameras are off, and to just get comfortable with silence and
Hmm.
just perform as if carry on as though people are laughing. Whereas I know my one of my first shows when I was bombing and like panicked and started laughing myself, like to fill
Yeah.
the air with laughter sort of thing. And
It really does. Like it makes you think about, like, do I trust the punch of this? Do I think that it works? And then you kind of have to sell it, like, for lack
yeah.
of a better way of putting it. And then that
Hmm.
timing will recalibrate itself. But
Exactly.
it's its
Exactly.
own skill, I think.
Right. Right. The timing, the pacing. I know one because I started this podcast. I think I started it in May of
Mhm.
2020, just because I was like, I don't want to lose this momentum. I was meeting all these comics and like learning from them and talking to them, that I didn't want to lose the momentum. So that prompted me to start this. And one of the comics that I spoke to, pro comic for years, um, she said, like, whatever your joke is, like, sell it.
Yeah.
Like, you drop that joke like it's like you believe in it. Don't like, especially, she said, especially if you're saying something dark or that could be construed as controversial, just drop it like you own it. Because she
Hmm.
said the audience can sense the fear and you're
Yes,
not
because
going to be able to
if you flinch, especially about something dark, they're going to be like, "Is this person okay?" And you
yes.
have to be able to sell it in such a way of like, "I wouldn't joke about it if I weren't okay,
Yeah.
so you have to laugh too."
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's a
I'm saying
really
it because it's okay. Yeah.
yeah, it's a difficult thing to
It's
do,
hard.
and not
Yes.
everybody can do it.
Oh yeah. No, it is difficult. But I've kept that in mind. I've kept that in at the back of my mind for every time I go on stage and every time, not that I'm not really controversial or anything like that, but I do say
Mhm.
things that are like, you know,
Yeah.
and um to have to say it without sounding apologetic,
Hmm.
without sounding timid, without like shrinking back before I
Yeah.
say it, that to just say it and put
Yeah,
it out
I have
there.
a joke that I'm working on right now, and like I've been chasing this for ages, and I'm like, I will make this work. But one of the pieces of it is like I'm not tentative about it because I believe it in the context of the joke, but like it applies to my former work in a way of like I know people are not going to like this, but like I believe it in what I'm saying, and I think that that's like a big part of how it's going to have to be to sell it is like I know people aren't going to like this,
Yeah.
but in this specific context of this joke, I'm right, and you have to go with me on it.
Yes,
So
yes,
like part
yes.
of it is just kind of like amping myself up for like don't argue with me. In this
Yeah,
case, I'm right. And
exactly.
it's not always easy to do. I like being nice. I
Me
prefer
too.
to not get booed at. So like
Exactly.
there's its own challenge. Like it's a little bit different from a lot of my other stuff, but I'm
Yes.
gonna get it.
Yes.
I will crack this joke. It is going to be great when I get it, but that's like one of the challenges that I think is intimidating me a little bit.
Yeah, because the thing is, it's dropping it, and just as how you're able to say it, you've
Hmm.
got to be able to stand there and take whatever
Hmm.
comes at you. It could, one night it could be laughter. One night
Yep.
it could be silence. One night it could
Yes.
be like, oh, you know what I mean? Like you have to
Hmm.
be able to stand there and be like, and not like recoil or not react to however
Hmm.
they respond to you. Like if they laugh, it's like, okay, cool, they laughed. They didn't
Hmm.
laugh, okay, cool, they didn't laugh, and just carry on. But that's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard, a little scary.
It is. And again, like any part of this, like when you're not used to it, it's especially difficult. But like as I go, like I know I'll get more comfortable with it over time, but it's
Mhm.
like that first couple, and especially that first time people don't like it, then you just have to be like, I'm not sorry.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like,
Exactly. I said what I said.
exactly. It's like I said what I said.
Yeah, because that's something that I work on all the time, and I'm getting more comfortable
Mhm.
with the awkward silence or the awkward pause between a joke of just like standing there and like looking at people like, what are you gonna say? Sort
Yeah.
of thing.
What's your thought process when that happens?
My thought process when that happens.
So like if you
Uh,
say something and then just like not to say that it doesn't hit, but you can tell that it's hit and people are like, "Oh, I don't like this." Like how do you think about that and how do you
um,
keep going?
I have a couple different response. I have a couple different reactions. Like on Saturday, I did a show and dropped. I've been this joke I've been doing like on and off for a couple of years, and I
Mhm.
love it. And it's like one of the joke. It was one of the first jokes I ever wrote, even before I started comedy. I just had it
Mm.
rolling around in my head for like 10 years, and so when I drop the line, there's always like a oh. There's
Mhm.
laughter too, but it's usually oh.
Mhm.
And depending on when I've done it, like yeah, depending on when I put that joke in,
Mhm.
I might look at someone and go, "Thank you, thank you," like that. Thank you, thank you for that.
Yeah.
But lately I've been putting that joke first,
Mhm.
and I find that it sets the, because another comic gave me a piece of advice in November that said, always start your set. Maybe this is something other people already knew, but he told me this and I was like, oh yeah, maybe people have known this. But I discovered he told me this in November, is to start your set with something that sets you apart, from everyone else in the lineup,
Mm-hmm.
and or is unique to you.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
yeah, because he said with that you can follow anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it doesn't matter, like if everyone's talking about like some variation of dating, for example, you could start with something about dating that's like out of left field,
Mm-hmm.
versus say like more mainstream jokes or whatever. Like everyone else's jokes about that subject is here and yours is over
You're
here.
just like over there. Yeah.
Yeah, yours is just a different perspective. And I remember the night he told me that, we were driving from one venue, he was headlining and I was middling, and I drove him from from the first venue to the other venue. And he
Mm-hmm.
told me this in the car. And I remember thinking, oh, it's too late to try that. But by the time we got to the venue, I'd already rearranged everything.
Mm-hmm.
And all I did at that point was just move that joke where I had it say 3/4 in. I moved it to the top.
Mm-hmm.
I kept I think I took out one joke, but kept everything the same. And
Yeah.
the shift, because I record everything. So I have like the early set where I did it the old way.
Mm-hmm.
And then this other set where I rearranged it, and night and day. And even my posture, my demeanor on stage
Mm-hmm.
changed, that it was more commanding.
That's the benefit of game tape.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
that's not something that like if you were going on memory from the two, you might not have noticed. But being able to capture everything and really like watch and
Yes.
listen, not just to yourself, but how other people respond to it,
Yeah.
like it makes a difference.
It was shocking to me. It was shocking to me because usually, I don't know if I go like deaf or something on stage, but during a set, it doesn't sound the same to me when I listen to the audio later.
Yeah.
It's probably because you're in it. It's like I
Mm-hmm.
can get off the stage and be like, okay, I didn't bomb, sort
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But you're not hearing all the details of when people are laughing or thing, that you're not in the minutia of everything. But
Mm-hmm.
that night, the first set went well, was good. The second one, I remember I felt it on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
I felt it on the stage, and I felt like more confident. Like I usually don't stand at the edge of the stage, but I was like at the edge of the stage.
Yep.
It was just the
Just
whole,
taking risks. Like
yeah, I'm here, sort of thing. And it just changed everything. And because the joke is a little dark, yeah, it's a little dark. Um, it's sort of just like, this is who I am, sort of thing.
yeah.
This is what you're getting.
And I think the flip of that is sometimes like if you go dark early, sometimes you don't get people back.
Yes.
So it's I think it's a good strategy in terms of it
Yeah.
sets you apart, but it's also a little bit risky because like if you hit something early, you might not get.
Yes.
And this happened to me. I did like a showcase with like a whole bunch of other comedians, and I have a joke about. So let me back up a little bit. I still mask for the most part when I'm on stage. I'm like working on phasing that out, but like most of the time it's like very off-putting because people are like, why are you masking, nobody else is? So one of the ways that I manage that is that I talk about like 2 years of doctors having done their like strenuous training on Zoom. And I'm like, do what you want, but I know how I behave in Zoom meetings, so I'm just going to be careful. And the only time that ever went poorly, I was like at the showcase, like at one of our bigger clubs, and I was walking back to like take a picture of a friend that was on stage behind me. And this guy stopped me and was like, I just want to tell you how offensive and disrespectful I thought that was. I'm a doctor. I worked through the hardest stages of the pandemic and like was real, like genuinely really upset. I thought he was joking. Like I genuinely did not realize he was serious until like somebody from the club came by and he like stopped them and was like, no, I'm really upset. He ended up leaving. But like that was just wild to me because like I didn't like
Yeah,
That's
that
a
wasn't your
joke.
intent. Yeah.
And it's like I was the seventh person on stage, so it's not as though this person didn't realize they were in a comedy show.
Yeah.
But like because that happened at the beginning of the set, even though there was other stuff that went far better, I could not get that guy back. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about it,
Yeah.
but that
Yeah.
was just like one of those biggest examples of I saw like if you lose somebody early, even if the later stuff is good, you
Mhm.
can't always pull it back.
Yeah. Because I think the thing with the joke I started off with
Mhm.
is it doesn't get like the darkest part is the punchline at like the
Gotcha.
very end. So
Mhm.
so even though it's like a messed up subject, I've got them. Like if
Mhm.
I always know I can predict how the punchline will go by the first laugh
Gotcha.
of that joke. You know, if after the first thing I say, if there's laughter, I'm like, okay,
Yeah, it's like this will work.
this will work. If it's like, oh God, what is she going to say? Then I have to work a little bit harder, but then I usually get them like my next couple of lines usually bring them in,
Mhm.
and like they're is it endeared? They're endeared to they like me, and then I drop that and they're like, we still like her though. That was
Yeah.
fucked up, but we still like her.
And see, that's the thing is like, even if you have that instance where like one person is like, I'm upset, most of the room was with me. And like,
Yeah.
that's kind of the part that you have to stick with is like, I can't get hung up on this one guy
Yes.
who's like,
Yes.
underwear was in a bunch because like that joke always works. Like, and
Mm.
not even just because it's like, and it's not a slam on doctors. It's just like everyone knows how they behave on Zoom, and that's why it's funny. And that guy just could not get past. So like,
Because probably that's how he behaves on Zoom. He felt attacked.
yeah,
He
maybe
felt
also, and then
he
like I
very felt
was,
attacked. Yeah.
and then I was talking to my sister about it afterwards because like she's a psychologist, she's not like a medical professional, but I was just like, you work with medical doctors, like tell me what you think about this. And it she then also brought up that I believe I wasn't the only woman of color on the lineup, but I was the only black woman. And she's like, well, that's just the kind of like someone would of course be able to be like, you did and it's like, yeah, I'm not interested in playing
Yeah.
that game with you. Like it probably wasn't going to go well regardless, so
Yeah,
I'm not
he
overly
probably would
concerned.
have found something else to be mad
Yeah.
about in your set.
He was
Yeah.
like, all right, sir, enjoy your evening, or
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah. Do you, whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like have you like other than that man, have you encountered like hostility from audience members just either just by being there,
Mhm.
not necessarily by your material?
Say hostility, but I would say that like, and it's that same thing that you get further out from people like, well, I didn't think I was gonna like you, but you surprised me like being really good. And I was like, well, what did you think you were gonna get? And they never have an answer for that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, so it's very much it's less hostility and more like
They're
a
like
backhanded kind
surprised.
of surprise. Like you were better than I expected. It's like I'm very good at this. Thank you. I
Yeah,
don't know why you thought
exactly.
I wouldn't be.
I'm a professional.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know? Yeah, I had a man do that to me in November, I think it was. I was setting
Mm-hmm.
up my camera. It was a satellite show for one of the clubs, and
Mm-hmm.
I was the only woman on the show. And I'm setting it up, and he asked me if I worked at the restaurant. And I was like, no. I was just like, no. Setting up my thing. Oh, you work for the comedy club? Well, kind of, I
Matter of
guess. I was
speaking.
like, in a matter of speaking, I said, I'm one of the comics. And he's like, oh, like, wow, like,
Like they
wow.
let you do that?
They let you do this? They let you
Mm.
out of the kitchen and put shoes on to do this?
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Ugh.
so he was just like, oh, wow. And then he goes, but you're going up first, though, obviously.
What?
Yeah. And it happened that I was hired as an opener,
Yeah.
which by definition of the position, I would have gone up first after the
Mhm.
host. But the person who was doing the middle spot was headlining at the club in the city.
Mhm.
So he did his middle spot first after the host did his thing. He
Mhm.
did the middle spot, then left to go back into the city to
Mhm.
headline at the club, and then I went up and did my 10-minute opener spot.
Yeah.
So like in the normal flow of things, it would have been host, opener, me, middle, headliner.
Yeah.
But it went host, middle, opener, headliner just because the middle had to go.
Right.
And so I went up, did my thing, and at the end of the show, he comes over and he's coming over, walking at me like this, doing that.
Absolutely. No.
It took everything not to take my tripod and like on the head with it. And he's like, "You're really good. You're really good." And I wanted to be like, "Thank you for your approval. Thank you." Like I didn't know I was good until you came along. Like, fuck off. You know?
Let me just say, you're better than me. Can I swear?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, you're better than me because I would have gone up and been like, "Surprise, motherfucker! I'm second." Like,
but I was already so like, just with the you're going second. Well, firstly, you I can't possibly be. Oh, and he also said, oh, because those guys, they're really good. Those guys are really good. And I'm like, have you seen them before? Like they were really good, but
yeah.
I was just like, have you seen them before? Oh, I saw one. I saw one of them, but they're all really good. Like I should be like so grateful that I'm like with the good kids sort of thing.
And it's like, thank God they let me on the show, right?
Yeah,
like,
thank God they let me in here.
I?
Oh my God.
Oh.
It was just like microaggression after microaggression. And the host of that show was Black, and the city we were like the town we were in was like a wealthy, upscale, predominantly white area. So we were the only two people of color in the restaurant. And I remember I got up there and I was like, "Oh, hey, you guys are probably shocked. Two of us in the same room at the same time." And of course they're like dying. They love that shit sort of thing. But yeah, the guy after doing the slow clap, like that was you were really, really good. I know, bitch. I know.
It's like, I know. This is my job.
Yeah, exactly. I do this. Yes, I know. Like I don't need it from you. Don't need to tell me that. I know. And it's just that condescending, bullshit that I'm so tired of. That people are like, "Oh, you're actually good at this." I wouldn't have been booked. The club wouldn't have hired me if I wasn't. You know what I mean? It benefits
nobody to put people on a show if they're not good.
Exactly.
Which is usually a thing I have to tell myself when I'm intimidated, but it's also valuable as a thing to tell people who think you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. They're not just going to put somebody up there. Oh, we need a Black chick. Let's put that one up. No. No. Yeah, no,
it serves nobody to do that.
Exactly. It serves nobody. It serves nobody to do that. But yeah, it's exasperating sometimes.
It is.
And like a lot of times, like if it happens in a club, like wherever it happens, because the thing is, I don't want to with people with people coming out of COVID where restaurants and bars and comedy clubs have suffered. Because they were closed and trying to make money and stuff like that. I don't want to tell someone, get the hell out. Like, get out. I'm not going to do that. And at the same time, I'm like, I shouldn't have to deal with this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to, nobody should have to deal with that just because we want to keep a paying customer, but fortunately that doesn't happen where somebody's so blatantly misogynistic or so blatantly biased, thinking like I'm the token female or I'm the token person of color that I'm not qualified to be there. Like, fortunately, that doesn't happen, or I'm not aware of it. Like, no one is usually that bold to come to my face.
Most people won't say it to you. Exactly. They'll say it to someone they're with. Or like, because it's like, I don't need that information. Do you think it helps me to hear that?
Because I've seen when I've gone on stage where I've seen usually men do this.
Yep. And you got to like work to
they've been laughing and like high-fiving each other. They see me come up and they're like,
And they're just like, this isn't for me. Let me rest my arms.
yeah. Or now I'm gonna go have a smoke, or I'm gonna go go to the bathroom or something. But I'm gonna let you know that I'm not here for this.
Yeah.
To
which again, I would be the jerk that like when they came back and be like, welcome back, we're having a great time. Yeah. I don't know why you thought you needed to miss it.
Exactly. Yeah, I called out 3 men when I was hosting. Because I was hosting, and so I'm in the room, I'm seeing everything. And it was maybe midway through the show. I was like, every time I come up here, you guys stop laughing. I said, I'm right over there. I can see you. I was like, you're all high-fiving and everything, and I come up and you're like, this bitch.
I love that you did that.
Yeah. And they were all like, and everyone's laughing and everything. And I was like, I'm watching you guys. Amazing. And one of the guys was like this. And after that, he's like, every time.
Damn right.
Because it's like, I see you. I can see you. I see how you're reacting to everyone else, but you shut down when I come up. Like, what's happening? Talk to me. Tell me. What's your problem?
Yeah. It's like, but also maybe don't talk to me, because I get the sense that like someone would then like try and defend, and it's like, oh, I actually did not want to know. Just do what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly. Oh my God. Insane. So, okay, before we wrap up, your Canadian connection, your hockey connection.
Yes. So I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland. My sister and I were both born there. My dad was a professor, so we kind of like moved wherever he was moving. And both my parents originally are from Africa, from Ghana. So we didn't really have a connection to like a sport. And I think my dad felt tricked by football because he thought it was soccer. And then they're like, no. And then basketball, he says, and I quote, I come from a short people, so my dad is also small. He says, it's not impressive when people that tall can shoot. He's like, if it was a whole team of people my size, then I would be impressed. So we weren't a basketball family either. So we just kind of like picked up hockey as a family growing up. And then my formative years were spent in Tampa, which many would argue should not have hockey, but we have 3 Stanley Cups, so we're doing great.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I am a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I got a lightning bolt tattoo for their 30th anniversary in September.
Wow.
So start of this season. So I take it very seriously.
Yeah, because I remember during, I think it was either last year or the year before, with the Stanley Cup finals, and I was like, she's a Tampa Bay fan. Like, oh wow, okay.
Yep.
I was like, I did not know this.
Yeah, people were like, well, how did that happen? I was like, well, I followed hockey, and they're like, well, how Tampa though? And I was like, I'm not in charge of the team ending up in Tampa. Like, they got there the same year I moved there, but like, I was 6. I was not involved in the decision. We just got there at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm old enough. I remember the expansion. I remember when Tampa Bay came in. I remember all those expansion things, because I grew up in Montreal.
Yes.
So
yes.
De facto, I'm a de facto Canadiens fan, but I came out as a Penguins fan when I moved to Toronto.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I couldn't do it in Montreal. Are you kidding?
Yeah, no.
I could not do that. Because so people think, oh, it's because of Sidney Crosby. No, it was because of Mario Lemieux.
Yes,
it's because of Mario Lemieux. I love that man since 1984.
As should we all.
Exactly.
As should we all.
But I couldn't come out and be like, woo, Pittsburgh. And that would have got me killed. Are you kidding?
No. And I mean, I'm in Boston, which has very strong feelings about Montreal. So I get
yes. That whole rivalry of Montreal and the Bruins. Boston, yeah. And even Toronto. I lived in Toronto for 17 years. And I wouldn't call myself a Leafs fan, but I was like, I live here. I go to the games. Like, I want the Leafs to do well. The last time the Leafs won the Stanley Cup was the year I was born. Like, they're due.
There you go.
They're due. They went like a whole 10 year, like the 17 years I was there. I think there was 10 years that they never made the finals. So when they made the finals, it was a big deal. It was a big deal sort of thing. So yeah, so it's like, yeah, so I had these secrets, like, oh, I go to Leafs games and I like the Penguins, but I have to front like I'm a Montreal fan. And it was very stressful.
Well, and I think we're playing Montreal today or tomorrow. I feel like whenever our next game is, today or tomorrow is
It's against Montreal. Okay.
Yeah. And we're recording this in March, and we will have the outcome far later. But I believe that to be true of like today, that tomorrow we're playing Montreal.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, the same thing. Like my parents were from Guyana in South America, and I used to watch hockey games with my dad. You know, and then we did figure skate. They put me in figure skating because I was fascinated by the hockey players skating backwards.
Oh yeah,
And so my first time on ice, I remember asking my teacher, "I want to skate backwards."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Okay, let's work on standing and forward first." But I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to do these things like cross cuts." And
yeah, you're like, I have goals.
I have goals.
Like, what can we do to get me towards my goals?
Yes, because I wanted to skate backwards so badly that they put me and my sister in skating.
I love it.
Yeah. So it was awesome. Yeah. But I haven't followed hockey as closely the last couple of years as I had, because I used to buy like the NHL Game Pass, see all the games and all of that stuff. So I haven't followed it closely in a while. So I'm not quite sure. I don't know the standings and stuff like that. I'll check every now and then, but I don't follow it as closely as I used to. But
it's always there whenever you're ready to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've gone to hockey games by myself.
Oh yeah, I used to love to do that.
Yeah, I'd go by myself. Like I had tickets to go. I think the game was supposed to be April 1st of 2020, or early. Yeah, it was either April 1st or like first few days of April of 2020 because Pittsburgh was coming to play Ottawa, the Senators. I'm not a Senators fan. I'm not. I've just never I've never warmed up to them.
There's no need to be.
Yeah. I've just never warmed up to them, sort of thing. But I was gonna go and watch the Penguins.
And then nobody got to do anything.
Yeah, I didn't get to do anything. And they were like, we're postpone it, and then it was just canceled, and so I got my money back. But yeah, like when I was in Toronto, I went to tons of games. Yeah, it was mostly like when Pittsburgh was in town, but I remember going once Ottawa was in town. I think another time Tampa Bay was in town, like and I would just go. I had a Leafs shirt, so if it wasn't one of my teams playing, I had my Leafs shirt. Pretend to be one of them.
Yeah, you gotta blend in.
I gotta blend in with my Leaf shirt and everything. But if it was Pittsburgh, I had my jersey on.
There you go.
Sort of thing, repping like that. And I remember one time I had really good seats, and these three men were sitting next to me, and one guy was like, "I think you have to go change." I'm like, no. He's like, "Be a shame if something spilled on your jersey."
No,
like it was all like ribbing, like they weren't gonna like Nancy Kerrigan me with
I sure hope not.
But it was fun. It was fun, it was funny, because they're always people. And then like I remember some guy leaning over like 3 rows to high five me when they scored, sort of thing.
Yes, you have to find your allies in
the crowd. You have to find your people. Exactly.
We got it.
Yeah, you were like, woo! Yeah, so always fun. Yeah, but I will come back. I will come back at some point,
we'll be ready.
I do enjoy it. I really love it and everything, but yeah, I just got distracted with other things, but
I get that.
Will be there again. So would you like to play my silly game that I call Silly Questions?
I would love to.
Okay, so I have 249 questions. I used to have 250, but one got deleted and I haven't replaced it yet.
Okay.
So they range from silly to deep. And I will ask you to pick a number between 1 and 249. And I will pick, well, not all, we won't do 249 questions, but I will ask you to pick a number between 1 and 249, and I will read you the corresponding question. And
let's start with 112.
112. Okay. If you lost one day of your life every time you said a swear word, would you try not to do it?
I would try. I don't know how well I would succeed. I
Same.
would do my best.
Same.
But sometimes you need to swear.
Sometimes you need to drop an F-bomb. It's true.
Like I think we've made this podcast like a PG-13 in the sense that I've sworn once, but
yeah, so I think
under
I've sworn
different
maybe 3 times.
circumstances, we'd be working differently.
Exactly. Different circumstances, I would have cut like 6 months off my life.
Yeah. Yeah, there certainly have been times of my life where
dead.
Yeah. It's like we would probably owe some days back. But yeah, just there are seasons.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
you work through it.
Exactly. Okay, let's do another number.
49.
49. Okay. This one might be a bit of a challenge.
Okay.
If tomorrow you were required to evacuate and you only had time to grab 15 items, what would you take with you? You don't have to list 15.
15 items. Is a device and the device charger one thing or two? So like if I needed my laptop charger, my phone, and my phone charger, is that
I
four?
think they should be one. Because I
Okay.
think I'm sure it'll be controversial. I think people will say no, it's two. I think it's one because you need both.
Right. Okay, so
chargers with the item. One.
Yeah, laptop, phone, Kindle, wallet, because that's my library card, my passport, because I don't know why I'm evacuating. Can the contents of my pantry be one thing? Just like the pantry?
I guess it would be stuff you can carry.
Yeah, just like
you can carry your pantry. Sure.
The contents of the pantry just like in a trash bag.
Okay.
A toothbrush. I think I would probably give myself like 2 pairs of jeans and like 5 novelty t-shirts. I don't know which ones. That's going to be a longer process. A coat.
Yeah, because it would also depend on the time of year
Yes.
that you're evacuating.
Mm-hmm.
And we also don't know for how long. So
right. I mean, if we're being very honest, a vibrator would have to come.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Like a notebook in case I got to write things down. I mean, depending on the reason for the evacuation, I might have to make a list for an insurance company. So a notebook and a good pen. I don't know how many that is. I think I lost track.
Because yeah, 15 is a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot. Because usually it's like 5 or something like that. Nope, those are good items. Those are good items.
Yeah, and you'll notice I listed clothing, but I did not say a bra, and I stand by that choice.
Yes,
because
exactly.
who needs it?
Yeah, no, it's just too restrictive.
No, thank you.
Okay, another number, please.
48.
48. How old is the most expired item in your fridge?
Oh boy. I think I have a thing of harissa that probably expired around the time that the pandemic started, maybe a little bit later, but like something like that, like expiration dates are an idea. Like sometimes, yes, things genuinely do expire, but sometimes it's just like, hey, don't keep this so long. And I'm just like, don't tell me what to do. So I might use it again, I might not, but it's probably a condiment, and it's probably like either harissa or like chilies and adobo.
Yeah, I'm thinking of mine, and I think it's a bottle of sriracha. Is that how you say it? Sriracha.
Yeah.
That I probably got pre-pandemic.
Yeah, like it's
condiments
usually,
for sure.
Yeah, it's usually condiments, and even then, it's like the idea of a condiment expiring. Like, okay, maybe, but also probably not.
Yeah, it might be like crusty around the jar or something. As long as it's not moldy or something or
Exactly.
stinky sort of thing.
Salvageable.
Yeah, you can still use it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more.
17.
17. Would you rather have unlimited international first class tickets or never have to pay for food at restaurants?
That's hard because I love to eat. And because I've been gluten free for a while, my food is generally more expensive. I'm going to say food for free at restaurants because I could use those savings to buy first class tickets for international travel.
True. True. Whatever you would have paid for food
Mm-hmm.
could go to the travel fund. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough one though because unlimited travel, you could go anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
then
like
like
my
you
work, I can work from anywhere. They don't care. So,
right,
like,
same.
it's an
Exactly.
attractive proposition.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, that could be. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards restaurant. So and that savings going towards a travel fund, you
Yes. I like that.
know. Well, thank you so much
My
for
pleasure.
joining me. This was so much fun. I know we could have gone on for at least another hour, you
Most
know.
definitely.
That being said, I'd love for you to come back.
I would,
And
anytime you'll have me, I would come back.
yes, okay. I will definitely have you back in a later season because yeah, we just scratched the surface of all the stuff we could talk about.
Yeah,
But thank
seriously,
you.
anytime. I could talk about this stuff for ages and
Same.
never get bored.
Me too. Me too. Me too. So I will have your socials in the show notes. What's the name of your special?
It is called Enjoy Your Nachos.
Enjoy Your Nachos. Okay. And the video portion, well, the video version is on YouTube, and
Yep.
then the audio
It
is
is
on
streaming most places where music and comedy live.
awesome, awesome, awesome. So congratulations on that. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for joining me today, and I'll definitely have you back. And thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time.